Whenever moving to a new city, there's always going to be costs or things or little nuances that you're not aware of. And so this video is going to explain some of the unexpected expenses that it takes or costs when you live or move to Phoenix, Arizona. So we're going to jump right in here, guys, and go over 5 unexpected expenses that you need to be aware of if you're going to actually live or move to Phoenix, Arizona. So we're going to start off with number 1, and that is utility prices. That's right. What does it cost to operate the utilities that you have to have, whether your house is paid off or not, whether you live rent-free or not, when living in Phoenix, Arizona? So let's go through some of those right now. So let's start with what the average Phoenician pays for utilities on a monthly basis. That is $408 a month. Not bad. That's around the national average for utilities. But let's break that down further, okay? So when you look at that, you're talking electric. The average use is $131 a month. Gas, $116 a month. Water, $53 a month. Internet service, $77 a month, and then TV. When it comes to TV, it just depends on what service or type of TV you're going to pay for. So there's cable. Cox Communications is the large cable provider here in Phoenix. You have DirecTV, which is the major satellite provider. Then you have the streaming services, guys, which are really popular. And the 2 major players there are Hulu and YouTube TV. So it depends on what you want to do. The average streaming service, because that's what I do, I actually have both for different properties, vacation rentals, all kinds of fun stuff going on here. But for YouTube, it's going to be around the $75 a month mark, and Hulu about the same. Hulu's a little bit more expensive based upon the unlimited TV or device package, but it's going to be in that $75 to $80 range a month on that service. So let's go back and unpack this. The electric service, that's going to be your most expensive utility per month. Why? Because it's hot here in Arizona. We're in the desert. AC is critical. Now, that being said, in the wintertime, you won't use much electricity because you won't be running the furnace very often because it doesn't get super cold. Now, you will use it from time to time. You may have a gas furnace as well. On the electric side, you use a lot less in the wintertime than you do in summertime, but the pendulum swings heavily to one way in the summertime because it's so stinking hot. And then it depends on how many air conditioning units you have. Do you have 1? Do you have 2? Do you have 3? It depends on the size and how large your home is or your commercial space, your office building, to determine how much electricity you're going to be using and how many units are going to be powered at your property. That all plays a role. I can tell you right now, I have 3 air conditioning units at my house, and it gets a little pricey in July and August. We're running about $600 to $650 a month and being somewhat conservative. So if you really let it loose and keep it freezing and cold all the time for the most part, you're gonna be looking up in the ballpark of $1,000 plus a month when you have 3, 4, 5 units, that sort of thing. So it can be expensive. Now, some of the electricity companies, there's basically 2, APS and SRP, they do have stabilizer plans where you can actually average your use over the past 12 months and then pay that, divided by 12, pay that every single month. So in January, when you use very little electricity, you're looking at a payment that's the same as July when you're using a lot of electricity. So if you have a budget, you want to keep it along those same lines even throughout the year, that's a way you may want to do it. They also have plans where you have on-peak and off-peak hours for electricity. So right now, the most popular plan that most people use, my clients and myself, is the on-peak plan between 4 and 7 p.m. throughout the day. So if you use major electronics, AC, washing machines, etc., in those time periods, it's gonna be very pricey. But when you use the majority of electricity outside of those 3 hours of 4 to 7 p.m., it's very cheap. So it just depends on what type of plan you would like to use, but they are offered down here in Phoenix, Arizona with the power companies because electricity is a big deal. Now let's go to gas. Gas is powered by Southwest Gas. That's the only gas provider throughout the Phoenix area. And some places don't have natural gas. You'd be surprised that a lot of the neighborhoods that were developed in the 70s, 80s just don't have natural gas. The large lot horse property type properties, once upon a time, they don't have the infrastructure of gas through all the homes. Most homes do have a gas option, however, a lot of them do not. But if you do have gas, it's awesome. It's a little bit cheaper than running electricity all the time. And of course, when it comes to cooking, the chefs, they love having natural gas. If you don't have a natural gas option, we have workarounds. There are a lot of propane companies in the Phoenix area. So you can have a mid-sized propane that sits on top of the ground that will actually power like a spa or something, a barbecue grill outside, something more on the smaller side, maybe a cooktop. But you also have large options up to like 1,000 gallons of propane that are buried that can power a whole house if you want that natural gas option. So that is a thing. And what's really cool is the company actually has sensors on it, and so when the gas gets low, they just get alerted and they can come out and just fill right up, and so you don't have to even mess with it, and they just charge your credit card or whatever right on file. So these are conveniences and workarounds if you don't have natural gas. Let's talk about water. Okay, water. Water on average, we said, is only $53 a month for the average Phoenician. Why? Because you have a lot of desert landscaping, you have artificial turf, things of that nature, so not a lot of grass to water for that. Now, obviously, you have your water for your normal consumable items, showers, toilet, sinks, etc. But again, in City of Phoenix, most of the water is actually ran by the city your house is located in. City of Phoenix, City of Chandler, City of Scottsdale, etc. And that includes your sewer and your trash as well. The city pretty much handles all of that in one bill. It's broken down, but one bill. So when we talk about $53 on average a month in Phoenix, we're talking about just water. However, the average bill is gonna be more than that because the city will bill you all in one for water, sewer, and garbage. There are some exceptions to that. There are some private water companies and private trash companies that will actually operate some commercial spaces and some residential spaces as well throughout Phoenix. But for the most part, the cities handle most of those services for the homeowners. So last but not least with utilities, we cannot forget to mention solar. That's right, guys. Solar you'd think would be actually a little bit more prevalent in Phoenix, but it's not as much as you'd probably think, given the fact that we have over 300 days of sunshine a year. It is becoming more and more popular, but I think maybe because of the lack of government rebates that have gone away over the last several years, people have been a little more apprehensive to make that investment and the time frame of the investment for the solar panels. However, it is a good deal. And the great thing about it is that education is getting more and more better about solar panels. So several years ago, selling houses, if you had a solar panel system on your house and you had to sell it, it had to go with the house. The prospective buyer may not want it on the house because they don't be locked into another 16 years on the lease if it was a leased property or whatever it may be, and they didn't want to be stuck with that payment, although it's probably so smart that they were, but they didn't want to just be stuck and be tied down to it, so they may pass on buying that house. Well, now the education has gotten so much better around this that here's what the situation with the solar system is, and here's what the rates of the electric company are doing. They're going up over time, so you have the chance to actually fix your cost on electricity to an extent if the solar system is appropriate for the size and the usage of the household. So it's become a lot better, and it is a positive thing. It is overall an asset to have a solar system, especially if you can get one on the house paid for, right? For the property, because you're gonna be able to fix a significant, if not all, portion of your electric bill every single month, guys. So it is awesome if you can get the right situation, or if you don't have it on your house, talk to the appropriate solar company, get a few bids, and see what it may look like if you have a system put on your house compared to the usage of your current electricity. Okay, so we're moving on to the second unexpected expense, which are taxes in Arizona. You got to be educated about that. So the big thing is income tax in the state of Arizona is actually a flat tax now. It just started in 2023 here. And so it's 2.5%, guys. It makes Arizona the lowest state in the entire country for income taxes. 4 states that actually charge an income tax. So 2.5% flat is amazing in Arizona. Now let's talk about the ones that are even better than that. Property taxes, guys. Property taxes in Arizona on average are around 0.64% for every $100,000. So that is very low compared to the average across the country when it comes to property taxes on real estate. So it's a big advantage, especially if you're going to be an investor in Arizona, because if you're an investor, then that's less taxes you pay on the property. Therefore, that's more cash flow that you get to keep in your pocket. So it makes it very lucrative for investors also to come to Arizona here in the Phoenix area. Now let's talk about the negative when it comes to taxes for Arizona, and that is the sales tax. Currently it's around 8.6% for things that you're purchasing. So again, that's the not so good part of the taxes in Arizona. I guess you got to figure they're going to make it up somewhere, right? If property taxes are low, and income tax is low. So sales tax, they do make up some of that at 8.6% on things you buy. So just things to be aware of when you're coming to a new place to live. Number 3, that is homeowners insurance. That's right, guys. Insurance is rising everywhere across the entire country, but in Arizona, it's actually 16% less than the national average. That's right. Currently, it sits around $1,525 a year for the average homeowner insurance policy, which equates to about $127 a month. That is not bad. Look at states like California and Florida, where insurance companies are actually pulling out right now, and we have a good thing going with the insurance carriers in Arizona because we don't have a lot of natural disasters, which makes the insurance cost stay lower. Now, one thing we do have is we do have monsoons. Monsoons are not the typical monsoons you think of maybe somewhere else in other parts of the world, but we do have monsoons in the summertime, and they're called that because we have a lot of rain that is dumped at a very short amount of time, and the soil, it being so dry in the desert, can't soak it all up, so it causes sometimes flash flooding. This happens typically in July and August. Those 2 months are the 2 primary monsoon months, but when that happens, you can actually have some damage if your home is not engineered correctly, or maybe it just is too much rain. So typically homeowner insurance is going to cover rain that comes down from the sky, and if that comes and hits your roof and causes damage, you'll be covered. If it comes from under the ground or on the ground surface level into your house, you will not be covered, and that's where you need flood insurance. So flood insurance in Arizona actually is around the national average in other same parts of the country, which is amazing that it's still that low. You're looking at about $760 a year, or on average about $63 a month. So flood insurance is not that expensive, and it makes all the sense in the world to obtain that if you're in a floodplain. The good news is when you buy a house and have the right representative or agent representing you, then you'll know if you're buying a house in a floodplain, and therefore you'll know to get the appropriate flood insurance. The good news is most of these home builders, when they build a subdivision, they will have areas all engineered for flood control through little pocket parks that may be full of grass, but really they're retention areas. Or you'll have washes throughout the neighborhood where water will get running really good if you have a good downpour at certain times of the year, and that controls all the water free flowing throughout the neighborhood into lower parts of the area so that homes are not affected. So that is a really good thing. There's really good flood control and engineering for all homeowners, or most home subdivisions throughout the Phoenix area. And one more thing on homeowners insurance, it'd be smart to bundle that insurance with your auto. It's very smart because you get a discount with the vast majority of insurance carriers out there, so it just makes all the sense in the world. And when you do that, be sure in your auto policy to get the windshield replacement rider on your policy. Why? It's worth every penny, because over in the desert there are so much sand and rocks. When you're on the interstate or roads, people traveling fast, it is very common to get a chipped windshield in your car, and you want that rider to make sure that is covered, and it's no cost to you to get that windshield replaced in your car, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when living in Phoenix. The fourth cost, unexpected, is going to be car registration fees. They are higher in Arizona, guys. So again, this is one of the things where it's a trade-off, where other things are much cheaper, but this one's gonna be a little bit higher. So here's how that works in Arizona. The vehicle license tax is based on an assessed value of 60% of the manufacturer's base retail price, reduced by 16.25% each year since the vehicle was first registered. Then after that, the rate is simply $2.80 for each $100 of assessed value. So it's a complicated formula, but it is a little higher than the national average. So just be aware that when you're registering a car in Arizona, it's going to be more expensive. The fifth expense category, I'm going to say, are household expenses, kind of miscellaneous expenses that you may not think of but need to be addressed and discussed. The first one's going to be termites. All right, termites are a thing. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when as well. We have subterranean termites in Arizona. They're much more prevalent, much more common, but they're actually not as destructive. That formula is going to be about 7-to-1 ratio. So what most of us are used to, termites in the East Coast, Midwest, do about 1 year of damage, takes these termites 7 years to actually do the same amount of damage. So again, not as destructive, but very prevalent. When you have to treat for those, it's very common. There's multiple ways they can do it, but typically you're looking somewhere in the ballpark of $500 to $600 to have it treated with a 1 year warranty. You always want that 1 year warranty because they can come back. If they come back, you just treat them again. Now, how you know you have termites is there is going to be that little tube, that brown tube coming up from a stem wall, the wall that comes from your foundation up on the exterior or interior of your house, throughout certain walls or whatnot, or even in your ceilings, dangling little piece of brown little tunnel starts to dangle from your ceiling. It's gross. You have termites, don't ignore it. Get them treated, you'll be fine. The next thing is pest control. That's right, you really want pest control in Arizona because we have some of these desert creepy crawly scorpions and things of that nature that you really want to try to eliminate. Now, with scorpions, let's talk about that. You can have your house sealed for them, no problem. They're more prevalent when you're in the mountainous area and areas where the ground's being tilled up a lot, maybe by a landscaping nursery, things of that nature. But they can be eradicated out of your house. The number one thing to do is seal the house. The second thing, get rid of the food supply. The food supply primarily is crickets. So if you hear chirping at night, get your pest control guy out right away and get that handled, because if they don't have food, they won't be around your house very long. That's the good news. For pest control, it also takes other critters and other things out of the mix as well with that service. And so you at least want to have your home service once every other month. Some people will do it once a month or even more frequent. It's maybe not as necessary, it just depends on your comfort level, but you're looking at somewhere in the ballpark of $60 to $100 for pest control when they come out to service your property and put their chemicals down, spray, whatever the case may be. The next thing is yard maintenance. You'll want yard maintenance, guys. I know you may not have any grass, but you will probably have some bushes and maybe some trees. They come out and they blow actually the desert rock around the front and backyards, and it actually cleans it up real nice. They actually rake the rocks. That's right, they rake the rocks, but it looks really good. And you'll want that because if you don't come out and blow all the leaves and things that get inside the rock in your backyard or front yard, it does accumulate over time and actually does not look very good. So you'll want to make sure you have somebody come on a routine basis, or you can do it yourself, to blow, they call it a blow and go, all the rocks and get them out of your front and back yards. And some of you might have grass as well. They'll come with the grass, they'll weed whack, then trim the edges, and so it just looks really nice. The best money I ever spent is when I made the decision, guys, to actually hire a landscaper. For a while there, I did it myself, and I'd come home and have to do it, and it's just something I didn't want to have to deal with. Now I come home, the yard's done, looks beautiful, better than I could ever do it. There's a technique with that blower. I don't know how they do that. Somehow they do it. I could never do it. When I was blowing my own front and backyards, the leaves go everywhere up in the air, fall down. I couldn't get them in a nice little bundle, and it just was a disaster. So they do it really well. Let the professionals do it, handle it, best money you'll ever spend. And the last expense that we'll cover here is the pool. Now, if you have a pool, which most homes in Arizona do, you'll want to have someone come out and maintain it for you. That's right, it can turn green in a second. Trust me, I know, if you're not balancing the chemicals correctly. And that's the last thing you want to have happen. It gets so hot here in the summertime that it burns the chlorine so fast that if you don't keep up with it, it will turn on you. And once it turns, it's hard to get it back without dumping a lot of money and time and electricity on that pool pump into getting it back to being clear and serviceable. So make sure you have someone, if you don't know what you're doing, service it. They come by once a week typically, and they will do the right chemical check. They will brush it and make sure the filter's running correctly, all the settings are good on the filters and the pumps, and get everything going from that standpoint. If you don't have a variable speed pump, it may be something you should consider. Why? Because A, it's more efficient, and B, that will save a ton on your electricity bill that we talked about earlier. So a variable speed pump, look it up. It's going to cost you a little bit of money to replace if you don't have one, but it's very important to do. It runs at low speed most of the time, and then for an hour or two a day, you can set it on the high functioning speed where it keeps the pool really clean. So I'd highly recommend to have a pool maintenance company. There's a ton of them out here in the Phoenix area, or if you do it yourself, you got to keep up on it. Now again, we're talking about chlorine pools. The other option is to have a saltwater pool. You can actually convert a chlorine pool to a saltwater pool for not that much money overall. You're talking a couple $1,000, and then you have to replace the salt cell about once every 2 to 3 years. And it uses a lot less chemicals, it's less maintenance, and some people say on the skin, it feels just a lot better. So it depends on what you want to do there from that standpoint, but the main part is you got to stay on top of it. And if you don't, it will turn on you. And so it's very important to have somebody come out and do it for you if you're too busy to get it done. So I hope you guys enjoyed our video on the 5 unexpected cost categories that probably no one told you about, but now you know. And that's why you watch this show. That's why you watch this channel, Everything Phoenix, and we are very appreciative for your time in doing so. Thank you so much. And again, if you like everything you have to see here, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, like us, and give us a call. We're putting out daily content all the time. Our number here at 480-660-5974, info@cookandassociatesaz.com, or hit us up right here on Instagram, DM me, or check us out, putting out daily content at Kelly Cook Homes. Thank you guys so much, and don't forget to call me.